Right. It's when MLK starts organizing along class lines, and he creates the Poor People's Campaign. That's when he becomes like really really dangerous, right? And that's when all the bourgeois liberal friends that he had acquired, when uh, he was doing great things at the beginning with the civil rights movement, of course, but it doesn't cost them anything to unite bathrooms and to desegregate bathrooms. It does cost them, however, when you're speaking out against war and when you're speaking out against working conditions and unifying workers regardless of race and any other sort of division. So it's a wonderful moment that we always have to remember and learn from, because those are some of the more successful socialist or progressive movements in the country. And I think that often we forget that. And that's what I think the main importance is of recapturing what I consider to be like the historical legs of our current movement, right? The bourgeoisie keeps telling us that America's on one side, socialism is on the other. There's this unbridgeable gap between the two. There's no such thing as a socialist past in the U.S., and it couldn't be any farther from the truth. And the civil rights movement, it culminated in, I think, a socialist moment that's when it became really dangerous. But I think that's when its emancipatory power was at its height.
I think it's interesting how the media always treats figures who begin trying to unite along class lines. And MLK's daughter is constantly saying this kind of thing these days. You people would have hated my father when he was alive. And I cannot think he wouldn't have been called a class reductionist at some point, you know? Um, and then, everyone knows the history of what happened to him. And that's our history in the workers' movement. And there's so much of it from the very beginning. And I think it's a shame when that this is kind of hidden from us, right? We don't grow up learning these things. I mean, well, I did, but I'm a really weird case. Most people don't, and there's just a rich, long history from even before the revolution of class struggle right here.
I mean, sometimes you learn it too, but you just learn it with the class struggle element removed. It's like, oh, there was Ruby Bridges and Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X came along. He was a little bit too, a little bit too brash, but he was still a good guy. And then they got rid of racism, and now America's in great shape. And there's been no struggles ever since, and we've reached the end of history. I mean, that's basically what they tell you. Like liberalism was a little iffy. It was a little racist, and then we desegregated the bathrooms, and now liberalism's sick. But they take out the class struggle elements. They don't tell you anything that MLK or Malcolm X were saying about class, about economic redistribution, wealth redistribution. Yeah, and that history is there to be recaptured, I think.